Let's chill out, watch some Nick Crowley, all right? And get insanely depressed or scared or shit, piss, and cum, or all the above. The internet's darkest corner 6.
Fifth alarm. Working structure fire. 7741 Liberty Road Drive.
It's 9 a.m. on May 18th, 2024. Residents of Charlotte, North Carolina wake
North Carolina
up to the smell and sight of black smoke billowing up into the sky. The source, a massive 7-story apartment complex, home to 239 luxury units.
How have I not heard of this? This is like recent. Thank you, Outspectre. I suggest Utah, but like, why would I do that? I mean, we've considered that, but yeah.
Or at least what should have been luxury units. At the time, the structure was still under construction, meaning that thankfully no residents were living there. But this in and of itself
yeah, the whole too many Mormons thing. Yeah, I've heard about that.
Presented 2 major problems.
In
the
Utah.
first was that in its current state, the top 5 floors were primarily just the bones of the structure, made almost entirely of wood and insulation, making the building as a whole extremely flammable. Meaning that although the fire had started out relatively small, it was quickly going to consume the entire complex if it wasn't put out.
The building was made with wood and insulation, and that's it?
Quickly. Which brings us to the second and even more glaring problem.
In 2024?
The building was actively under construction when the fire started, and that morning 17 construction workers had clocked in, all of whom were now in grave danger. And by the time the firefighters arrived on the scene, the situation was already dire. And so firefighters rushed in, finding a large group of the employees and leading them out to safety. Though when they made it outside, they made the horrifying realization that they had only found 15 of them. Somewhere within that labyrinth of burning wooden walls, 2 men were left behind, trapped and calling out to anyone who might hear them.
God.
And these pleas weren't just being made to those on the scene, as in the following minutes, one of the trapped men, 30-year-old DeMonte Sherrill, would take out his phone, open up Facebook, and go live, revealing the horrifying reality that both he and his friend had found themselves in.
Somebody say hell, we're in South Park. Help!
Today, we're going to be showing our friends the basics of the internet, and we thought you might want to come along.
Random, like, horribly depressing thing. Did you guys hear about what happened in, what was it, Bangkok? With the earthquake or whatever? Like a huge building collapse and like 1,000 people died? Sorry, it's like I saw a building and on fire and it just made me think of like that just recently happened, which is absolutely fucking crazy. Yeah, 7.7 earthquake. Yeah, fucking insane, dude. I saw like the video of like the Twitch streamer who was just visiting there, I guess, or I don't know if he's on vacation or something like that, but he was in I forget where he was at. But yeah, he didn't even get like the main earthquake, but he was like in like a tall building and like just seeing like a tall building shake like that. Bleh. It was Myanmar. Myanmar.
You gotta do it now or never.
What are you doing? Yo, what the?
If you own a computer, here's how to get the most out of it. Watch this, watch this, watch this.
I don't wanna.
Yo.
Myanmar. Okay.
I'm at South Park right now. At work. The building on fire. And I can't get out.
The stream showed DeMonte Sherrill and his friend Ruben Holmes somewhere deep within the prospective apartment complex, and though the fire hadn't yet reached them, the smoke certainly had, blanketing them in a thick impenetrable fog.
They're not going to make it, are they?
Not only making breathing extremely difficult, but also making it nearly impossible for rescuers to see them.
It's getting harder and harder for them to see us. We're going to have to stand out here and see. The building on fire, I'm trapped inside, me and my man.
This was likely one of the reasons why DeMonte chose to start this livestream, hopeful that it could show rescuers exactly where they were. But based on the footage, their positioning was far from ideal. They were on the second highest floor, floor 6, which had only one access point, a single stairway that was on the complete opposite side of the building. And based on their testimony in the footage, something had clearly blocked their path to that one remaining exit, meaning that the only other way out would be to jump. Though at 6 stories in the air, and falling into what would likely be the heart of the fire, this would have meant certain death. There was quite literally nowhere for them to go. Rescue was their only hope.
They even know? Carbon dioxide? Yeah.
Yo,
That's what I'm worried about, you know?
It's on fire. I'm at work.
Is that's how they're gonna go, is like just from, you know, losing oxygen.
Somebody send help. We're at South Park.
Seemingly realizing this, DeMonte began to grow more desperate, yelling out into the void of smoke, while Ruben can be seen in the background waving his phone flashlight, with both men doing anything they could to help rescuers find them. Before...
No, it's gonna collapse.
Help!
It's gonna collapse, isn't it?
the stream abruptly ends.
The building's gonna crash.
Rescuers were aware of the unfolding situation on the 6th story.
Oh,
they first tried to reach the men by using a massive crane with a basket attached, which can actually be seen in DeMonte's live
One of my
stream.
biggest fears is being burned alive or simply suffocating from smoke. Not gonna lie, would prefer the smoke route. I'd prefer to die from smoke before I get burnt alive, you know what I mean?
Though in it, you can see that it's also facing the complete wrong direction, as the smoke was just that impenetrable. However, at one point, it's believed that the crane operator did actually see these men, but the blaze was just too extreme, leading to the operator himself having to be rescued. This left only one real option for saving DeMonte and Ruben. They were going to have to go in after them. And so they climbed that stairway up to floor 6 and started their trek to the opposite end of the structure. Though before they could even make it halfway, the rescuers were relegated to a slow crawl, as the inferno around them raged more and more intensely, and the smoke grew thicker and thicker. Though that's when they began to hear screaming. Somewhere lost in that maze, Ruben and DeMonte were yelling as loud as they could for help. This sound was a sign that they were getting close. Though just then, rescuers would be met with another sound.
All companies working 7741 Liberty Road Drive, evacuate structure, per command. All companies working 7741 Liberty Road Drive, evacuate structure.
Command all companies, this will be defensive at this time. We'll be ready for this side to collapse.
Oh,
Everybody get out of the collapse.
I knew it!
Confirming
I
you
knew
are coming
it!
out, but you're not out of the building.
With the order being
Wait,
made for all of them to evacuate, as by this point, the structure was engulfed in flames, and a collapse was imminent. The firefighters tried to call out to the two in one last attempt to guide them towards rescue, but they never came. In fact, at that point, the structure fell eerily silent. They would leave that structure without DeMonte or Ruben, and minutes later, the fire consumed the entire building, with the temperature inside reaching 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit. Before...
Oh my God. Yeah. I knew it, bro!
it would eventually topple to the ground.
I fucking knew
And
it,
inside,
bro!
DeMonte and Ruben would become the sole fatalities of this catastrophe.
Oh my God.
Yo, I'm at South Park right now. At work, in a building on fire, and I can't get out. It's getting harder and harder for them to see us.
Knowing how the story ends would make this
Jesus
live stream
Christ.
difficult for anyone to watch. But what I find most upsetting about it is that the majority of those who initially watched this were his own friends and family that
my
followed him on
God.
Facebook, with these viewers
Dude,
including
yeah,
his own-
imagine fucking seeing this and then like going outside to see the building engulfed in flames and then collapsing on itself. Oh my God, dude.
mother. And a lot of them probably had no idea he even worked this job, as he had just been hired that week. His brother had also...
Bro was really calm while filming his final moments. To be fair, in this moment, he probably didn't think this was his final moments. Like this was like early on when the fire was not that bad. Right now, he's probably like, "Oh God, this sucks. I mean, I hope someone can get up here quick so I can get out of this situation." You know, they're probably not thinking they're gonna die at this point. I wouldn't be. I'd be stressed, be freaking out a little bit, but I wouldn't be thinking, "Oh, I'm definitely gonna die." But I'm just hoping they like died from smoke inhalation or something like that before the building collapsed on them and like burned them alive or something horrible, you know?
Caught the stream as it was happening and actually rushed over to the scene where he pleaded with the firefighters to watch the footage.
Yo, this man screamed for help on live.
But despite doing the best they could, there was just too much working against them to save DeMonte and Ruben. Following an investigation into the fire, it was discovered that the crew was using an organic foam insulation, which was known to be extremely flammable and produce thick black smoke. And this became deadly when the machine used to spray that insulation caught fire, sending the whole building up in flames, where they had yet to install any sort of smoke detector or alarm system to alert the crew of a fire. Making matters worse, there had been a temporary set of stairs made right where the two men had been trapped, but that stairwell had just been removed in order to make way for the permanent set of stairs.
Oh. Okay, I'm confused. Why would you remove the stairs when you know people were up there, though? Why would you do that? Also, how long was it that they didn't... How long did it take for them to realize they were even there? Like, you think they could have, like, gotten a ladder, brought the stairs back, like, done something? Like, how the fuck did it take them that long to do anything? That's crazy.
Because of this and a myriad of other issues, the companies involved with this construction were forced to pay a fine of $50,000 and are currently being sued by the families of both victims.
Good.
But regardless of the outcome, nothing will ever make up for the loss of DeMonte Sherrill and Reuben Holmes.
Such a fucking dumb, like, terrible way to go. This is highly preventable in every sense. They could have gotten, dude, there's no way that they couldn't help them before the fire. Like, they had to have just not been paying attention or not aware of anything that's going on. That's awful.
Things were getting concerning. Johnny Cashman spoke to his family nearly every single day. But now, on the 6th day without receiving any communication from him, they knew that something was wrong. Johnny lived in Lynchburg, Virginia, hundreds of miles away from his home, and so, being unable to check on him themselves, they called police in the area and requested a welfare check. Police entered Johnny's apartment on the 19th of April, 2022, and hours later, they would call his parents with the news that they had found their son dead on the floor. According to the officers, Johnny had experienced some sort of medical event that led to GI bleeding that ultimately claimed his life, but this made no sense to Johnny's family.
GI means gastrointestinal.
He was only 38 years old and had just been given a clean bill of health after a full medical exam only 4 months prior.
I know my stuff.
It was so out of the blue, in fact, that they even asked if there were any signs of a struggle or if there was any evidence that he may have taken his own life, but they were assured that there was no trauma, no drugs, and nothing suspicious found on the scene, and that, as shocking as it was, his cause of death was entirely natural and had likely just been spurred on by drinking and tobacco use, with the only solace being that Johnny didn't suffer, as they stated that he had died instantly. Because of this, no autopsy was performed,
Instantly?
as the case seemed as straightforward as it gets.
So, random medical event, gastrointestinal bleeding, tobacco and alcohol. How does any of that go to instantly dying? None of that, literally none of those things make you instantly die. I'm pretty sure gastrointestinal bleeding is not an instantaneous death.
And despite his family questioning if they should get their own autopsy, they were told by officers that it wouldn't be necessary. And so, Johnny's body was cremated and sent back to Maine, in what seemed to be the end of Johnny Cashman's
Of course it was cremated.
Story.
Hiding the evidence of something.
10 days after Johnny's body was discovered, his ex-girlfriend and her mother made their way back to his apartment in order to retrieve some of her belongings. She knew that re-entering the space was going to be difficult, but ultimately, there was no way she could have prepared for what was waiting for her inside. There was blood everywhere. It was pooled in the bathrooms, wiped on doors, spread all over the living space, and was even found on a chair and a banister. But the most horrifying part of it all was the walls. They were covered in splattered blood, which revealed long streaking handprints. It was something straight out of a horror movie, and although Johnny's cause of death was deemed natural, what they found in that apartment seemed anything but.
I wouldn't really call that natural.
Traumatized by what they were witnessing, the pair snapped.
A GI bleed can kill you within seconds if it's in the right spot. Does GI bleeding make you do that? Does GI make you do that?
Snapped multiple photos of the bloodshed and ran out of the unit, directly into Johnny's neighbor. This neighbor revealed that they believed something far worse than a medical emergency had happened to Johnny, as they had a security camera mounted to their door which faced Johnny's unit, and on the day of his passing, it captured something incredibly disturbing.
Is that him?
The footage shows Johnny making his way up the flight of stairs leading to his apartment.
Oh, that's not him. That's a kangaroo.
Around 3:03 p.m. Nothing seems out of the ordinary at all, though it is noteworthy that he was holding an empty glass.
Yeah, he looks like he's a little drunk.
Insinuating that he had been drinking, but this doesn't seem to impair his movements much at all, as he punches in the code and enters his home, just as he did every other day. But moments later, something happens inside that unit, and while it goes unseen, it doesn't go unheard.
Oh, dude, what the fuck? What are you doing? Yo, what the fuck, dude? What are you doing, man? Stop.
Man, that is a crazy GI. That gastrointestinal bleeding is something else, dude. Holy shit.
The audio seems to depict a man yelling, asking repeatedly, "What are you doing?" and begging for something to stop. On top of this, you can also hear loud thuds and banging.
That seems pretty instant.
Almost as if things were falling over inside, or there was some sort of physical altercation, before the unit then goes quiet just a few seconds later.
That doesn't sound like GI issues? Well, obviously you don't know what you're talking about.
It was unclear if this voice was Johnny's, or perhaps someone else who had been inside the unit. But
It's
regardless,
natural
one
causes.
thing was apparent from this audio. There was
He
someone
was obviously getting attacked by Five Nights at Freddy, the knife with the finger five guys of the Freddy Fazbear that goes in dreams. Freddy five slicing fingers. Five Nights at, what's his name? The Freddy guy. He slices, goes in the Five Nights at Kruger's. Yeah, that's what it is.
someone else in that apartment, despite the fact that Johnny lived alone. And just 7 minutes later, this unseen person would emerge.
It's probably a dude trying to help him with this gastrointestinal bleeding.
This clearly wasn't Johnny, and after leaving the unit, the anonymous man nearly makes it out of the building before he seems to change his mind. Turning around and walking back up the stairs before fiddling with the door handle, touching it only with his sleeve, like he was wiping off his fingerprints.
How did he like have a connection with the cops and the autopsy guy or something like that?
He then walks down the stairs and stops once again, where he seems to be in a state of shock over whatever had just transpired, before he composes himself and walks out of the building. But the footage wasn't quite finished yet.
Yeah, maybe he is a cop.
Just 1 minute later, you can hear Johnny shouting for help from inside.
Yeah, I don't think it was as instant as the cops said, because he's still alive. Astral thing is over for the gifted sub. Wow.
Inside the apartment, to which moments after he stops, and no further sound or activity would come from Johnny's unit until police arrived 5 days later.
5 days? 5 days! And the cops saw everything. The cops saw the blood. What?
The footage and the scene at the apartment seemed to contradict what Johnny's family had been told about his death. The blood all over made it obvious that Johnny's death had not happened in an instant. And this, coupled by the presence of this unknown man who was clearly distraught and wiping off his fingerprints, as well as the sound of the apparent struggle inside, seemed to point towards something much more sinister than what was initially conveyed to the family. But even with this footage, police still believed that Johnny's death was due to a medical emergency, as they quickly changed their initial story.
What? What?
Saying that the blood spread was due to uncontrollable vomiting, and that Johnny had in fact likely suffered, at least for a short while. But this medical emergency wasn't elaborated on, as they didn't truly know what caused it, as no autopsy was ever performed, nor could one ever be performed, as by this point, Johnny was already cremated, and cremated because of the officer's initial statements. So if Johnny had actually—
So, like, obviously the cops are covering it up, but like, the autopsy dude too? And like multiple cops as well? Like, how deep does this go? Like, how many connections does this dude have?
actually been murdered, which the footage does seem to suggest, there was now virtually no way to prove it. And what makes this even more frustrating is that law enforcement already had this footage. It was collected that very day, and they either didn't fully look through it or didn't think that this was overly suspicious.
Okay, I can't tell if this is like pure fucking negligence, which I wouldn't be surprised, and I wouldn't put it past the cops because they were too lazy, or they know the dude. It could be either. It's a toss-up.
But everyone else surely did. And soon, this video began making the rounds online, leading to one glaring question being asked. Who is this man? As no one in Johnny's life recognized him. Well, it wouldn't be until May 11th that investigators would finally ID him as Stephen Church. And upon being questioned, he revealed that he had moved to Lynchburg for work, but the opportunity he had lined up fell through shortly after he arrived, leaving him with no money and without a place to stay, which is when he met Johnny, who offered to let him crash on his couch. He supposedly stayed with Johnny for 3 days, and described Johnny as an alcoholic who drank constantly, including on that fateful day. When Johnny arrived home, Stephen claims that he started drunkenly yelling at him about paying rent, which led to the two getting into a verbal altercation. But he insisted that this altercation never turned physical, and that he left immediately after, to which he quickly went back to clean his prints because he was afraid that Johnny would try and have him arrested for squatting. And having already racked up 2 felonies in his life, Stephen was paranoid about going back to jail. But when Stephen was leaving, he did mention seeing Johnny hunched over the toilet as if he were going to vomit.
What? That is the laziest, shittiest alibi I've ever heard in my life. Are you kidding me?
But he claims to have left before this so-called medical emergency started. This is the gist of Stephen's account from that day, but the problem is, it doesn't really match up with what we're hearing in the video.
What the fuck? What you doing? Yo, what the fuck, dude?
From the footage, we can hear everything going on in that unit, but at no point do we hear any sort of an argument, nor do we hear anything about rent.
Thank you, Pandora,
with the phrases
for the
lending
prime.
themselves more to a physical struggle rather than a verbal one. In fact, the whole time it appears that we're only hearing one voice. But there is an exception. To my knowledge, it's never been conclusively determined whose voice is who in the recording, and either scenario paints a far different picture of what may have happened inside that room. But regardless, this audio makes it clear that Stephen's story was fabricated at least to some degree, as he also fails to account for the loud banging in the background. And because of this, his version of events is generally rejected, with most people seeming to believe one of 2 main theories. The first is that, upon arriving home, Johnny and Stephen had gotten into a physical altercation, resulting in Johnny taking some sort of blow to his abdomen, which in turn triggered or exacerbated this medical emergency. GI bleeds are horrific, and can certainly cause the level of bleeding that was found in the apartment, and perhaps seeing all the blood coming from Johnny, Stephen started yelling at him, before deciding to run off, fearing that he would be charged for murder. This would explain Stephen's demeanor and actions after leaving the apartment, and why he may have fabricated his story, as he knew or knows that he was directly responsible for Johnny's death. And this blow to the abdomen could have easily been missed by investigators, as the injuries would have been primarily internal. The second theory is that upon arriving home, Johnny naturally experienced a medical emergency leading to this catastrophic GI bleed. Upon seeing this and perhaps being in a state of shock, Stephen yelled at him, demanding to know what was happening and telling him to stop, as perhaps he was moving around the apartment and tracking blood everywhere, which would explain the other voice saying, "I can't stop." I could see how this experience would make no sense to Stephen, and perhaps just having no idea what was happening, he left and tried to make it look like
I would believe that if he called an ambulance. I would believe that if he called 911, you know? If he's like, oh my God, you're bleeding. Oh my God, I need to call help. Instead, he just says, oh my God, and then just walks away and tries to cover his tracks on the way out. Yeah, I don't really believe that one. Why did the cops cover it up then? Well, if they're going with this specific alibi or whatever, then the cops didn't. They just believe this specific alibi.
Like he was never there, as he was afraid of being blamed for whatever was happening to Johnny. And so he essentially left Johnny there to die, whether knowingly or unknowingly. What bothers me about this theory is why 911 was never called, not only by Steven, but by Johnny too, as his phone was found in the unit with blood on it, implying that he had it in his hand at some point, though it's possible that the massive blood loss just made him too disoriented. Both of these theories seem believable, or at least more so than the explanation that Steven had given. However, in October of 2022, Johnny's case would officially be closed for good, with Steven being cleared of any wrongdoing, as Johnny's death was labeled the same way that it always has been, a medical emergency that couldn't be further elaborated on, with the most relevant evidence being that Steven's shoe prints were not found in the blood, but Johnny's were, implying that he had not been part of the struggle. But in my mind, this can be explained by both theories mentioned previously, though regardless, without the possibility of an autopsy, this is likely where this case ends for good.
That is so goddamn frustrating, because he could have had something to do with it. Like, honestly, it seems like he definitely did have something to do with it, but it doesn't matter. Doesn't fucking matter. If I'm bleeding uncontrollably in that situation, I'm more likely to say it's not stopping or it won't stop, not I can't stop. Also, like, if you walk into a building and a dude you know is bleeding, you don't go, stop it, stop bleeding now, stop. Like, you never hear him say, why are you bleeding? What's happening? Do you need help? He just says, whatever we hear is, what are you doing? And stop. That's it. I do, but I'm just built different. You stop bleeding now. Stop it. He wasn't dead when the guy left, so there wouldn't necessarily be shoe prints in the blood. Yeah. Like, maybe he did do something to cause his gastrointestinal bleeding. Maybe he, like, I don't know, beat him up or did something. Who knows? Maybe he even stabbed him, but his body got cremated. So we don't even fucking know. Like, we got nothing. We'll chat next time. You got someone bleeding out, just tell them to stop, you know?
But with this disturbing footage, I can't help but think that there was more to the story than we may ever know. It was around 7:30 a.m.
Okay, I feel like I've heard of this case. I don't know if it's the same one, but is this the one with like the suitcase or whatever?
Warm July morning back in 2019. 17-year-old Bethany Martin and a 16-year-old friend decide to walk to a gas station near their home in San Antonio, Texas. And as the two of them made their way down the road, their path brought them parallel to a drainage ditch, which was often filled with various trash and other discarded material. But on this day, something far more interesting caught their eye. It looked like a man crouching down and leaned up against one of the concrete walls.
Okay, never mind.
But the closer they got, the more they realized how unusual his posture was. He looked completely unnatural, and he wasn't moving. And by the time they came face to face with him, the reality of the situation would hit them. They had just found a dead body. This discovery was enough to traumatize anyone, especially two teenagers, and upon calling the police and being sent on their way, Bethany and her friend would make the long walk back home contemplating what to do next, before they eventually landed on the idea of sharing their experience with the world. And so, as soon as they got in the door, they began to set up lights in their camera in order to film a TikTok.
Classic fucking teenagers, man. Making a stupid ass video like this after they see a dead body. Yo, let's get multiple camera angles of us just looking distraught, all right? Like, what is this, dude? What the fuck am I watching? Are you kidding me? What weird coping mechanism, but okay. Yeah, it's like, what even is, like, are they even coping? Or just like, wasn't that crazy? Wow. Dude, I love how the first thing that pops into their head when they see a dead body is, we can get a lot of views with this. Isn't that so fucked? The first thing that goes through their fucking heads is, we're gonna get a lot of clicks on this. My God.
The clip showed the two sitting on a couch appearing to be in a state of shock, with the words, "Us remembering we found a dead body this morning," plastered on the screen, offering no other context aside from the description, which simply read, "I wish we were kidding, all respect to the family." Some offered sympathy for the girls, while others viewed their post as insensitive and exploitative. But others weren't even convinced it was real, partially due to this glaring lack of context. But any doubt of this post's legitimacy would be quickly
like there is actually no reason to post this. Like, honestly, it would be more or less insensitive if you just like post a video of you just like holding your phone and just talking about it. Like, guys, saw a dead body today and it fucked with me. Like just talking. Not just like you probably put some generic trash song behind this and you're just looking at each other with 5 different camera angles of you just sitting on your fucking couch with text on the screen. Like, zero respect. Oh my God, I hate TikTok, man. Oh my God. Not even TikTok. I hate the clout chasing content people, dude. It's so fucked.
Quickly thwarted by a discovery made not even 1 full day later, as it was revealed that this recording hadn't actually been the only video that these 2 girls had made on that fateful day. On their walk to the gas station, the girls had...
Yeah, I was thinking of Logan Paul too. Hey guys, I think there's something hanging over there.
Stumbled across the body of 25-year-old Marcus Adams, with the young man having seemingly perished earlier that morning, with it being apparent that he had taken his own life. But upon finding Marcus, the girls weren't actually overwhelmed with sadness or even shock, as instead, their focus immediately went to something far different, as something on the man's body had caught their attention. His necklace. The girls really liked it. In fact, the unnamed 16-year-old had said that it matched her fashion perfectly. And so, before police arrived, the two would once again pull out their phone and start recording, showing Bethany approaching the body with her intention being to grab his necklace.
No way. Oh my God. Holy shit! It's a dead body! Yo, look at that fucking necklace though. Yo, is he really dead? Yo, I was gonna take that shit. That necklace is fire. That is totally me. That is my style. That is totally me, right? Right, Brittany? Right? Yeah, that's me. That's my style. I'm taking that shit. What the fuck? Dude?
Which she eventually does, removing the medallion and giving it to her friend. Before
Spoiler alert, they killed him. No. Maybe. Twist.
Tossing the chain into the grass nearby, leading to the girls running away from the scene.
Wait, the
16-year-old...
They just tossed it? Wait.
The medallion and giving it to her friend, before tossing the chain into the grass nearby, leading to the girls running away from the scene.
What the fuck?
The 16-year-old would then post that video onto her Snapchat story for all of her close friends to see. I can't show the footage for obvious reasons, but it's truly awful. And just based on the audio alone, you can tell that they're very obviously having fun doing this.
You gotta do it now. Now or never. Here, hold me. I got it. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god.
I hate teenagers, man. I fucking hate teenagers, bro.
There's something so uniquely disturbing about it. It's clear that upon finding the body, there was no real emotional impact on them, at least none that outweighed their desire to steal from it. And as if stealing from this man who had just taken his own life, and posting it for all their friends to see as if it were a joke, wasn't horrible enough, they then immediately posted this other video to TikTok in an attempt to garner sympathy. It's truly awful, and made even more appalling
this random dude who committed suicide, let's make it about us. Let's get sympathy for us, Not the dude who committed suicide, but us, because we had to see his dead body. Ugh. Ooh,
Reports that claim that the 16-year-old had actually worn this medallion in the TikTok video, and in others made following its posting. And unfortunately, their actions had even more upsetting consequences, as the footage from their Snapchat story was quickly downloaded by someone they knew and posted onto an app called Nextdoor, with the footage being totally uncensored. And it was on this app where it's claimed that
posted it on fucking Nextdoor? Dude, that is where like old people go to talk about their lawns that they just put a goddamn tulips. They planted some fucking tulips and they posted it on this. What are you posting dead bodies on Nextdoor for? What the hell? Dude,
many of Marcus Adams' own family members would see the footage.
Oh my God.
Many of whom weren't even aware that he was deceased.
Oh!
Just one day after posting this TikTok, both girls were questioned by the police after the incident and the footage was reported to them. And as a result, Bethany would be charged with theft of a human corpse, but would ultimately avoid any serious jail time. Meanwhile, the 16-year-old's name and charges were never publicly released, but we do know that the medallion was returned to the family. Perhaps unsurprisingly, Bethany would later come back to her TikTok page shortly after her arrest and share her side of the story, where she gave a less than half-hearted apology, while also claiming to be the victim, saying that
you're not even speaking! You're just putting text on a screen and showing facial expressions that aren't even human. Speak! Speak, gremlin! Use words!
That her friend had pressured her to steal from Marcus, as well as pressured her into making that TikTok in the first place, because she thought it would be a hit. Though obviously this didn't go over well.
That pissed me off, bro. Oh my God, that made me so mad.
On December 20th, 1984, 12-year-old Jonelle Matthews disappeared from her home in Greeley, Colorado in the evening hours. Earlier that day, she had sung at a Christmas concert with her school's choir, which her parents were unable to attend, as her mother was out of town and her father had gone to her sister's basketball game nearby, leading to Jonelle catching a ride home with a friend.
Dude, that sucks, man.
Being dropped off at her house sometime around 8:15, where she excitedly spoke to her father on the phone, letting him know that she had arrived home safe and sound. Approximately 1 hour later, her father, Jim Matthews, pulled into the driveway to find the garage door wide open. In the house,
classic dad. Rather go see his other daughter play sports in a basketball game that there's going to be, what, like 50 other basketball games, but ignore the daughter who's in a musical production because, you know, no one gives a shit about that stuff, right? That's so fucking stupid, right? I'd rather go watch a basketball game, right? Hell yeah.
Completely empty. Jonelle was gone, leaving behind her winter coat and even her shoes, despite it being a frigid, snowy night. And it was within that
It's the olden days, pig? Yeah, and it still fucking happens today!
Snow that was quickly piling up that lie one of the only real clues left behind at the scene. Footprints, leading directly to one of the home's windows, insinuating that someone had been watching Jonelle.
Oh, God.
12-year-old Jonelle Matthews disappeared from her Greeley home 1 month ago today. It's believed she's the victim of a kidnapping. She has not been seen or heard from since December 20th.
Her disappearance became a big news story almost immediately, with the whole community and really the whole country becoming invested in the fate of this girl, thanks in large part to her being one of the very first milk carton kids, meaning that her face and information about her disappearance was shown on countless milk cartons all across the country to get the word out. And as a result, this case became huge in the mainstream media, as even politicians began to make note of Jonelle's story, with then-President Ronald Reagan mentioning the girl in one of his speeches.
I learned about Jonelle Matthews of Greeley, Colorado, 5 days before Christmas. Jonelle disappeared from her home.
Though even with this publicity, this didn't necessarily guarantee results, and soon months would turn to years, and eventually to decades. And all
Dude, I honestly forgot that presidents used to be literate, you know? Like Reagan sucks, don't get me wrong, but you know, he could talk, he could speak, he could talk in sentences, you know? It's like fucking foreign to me at this point, you know?
All the while, Jonelle's whereabouts remained a complete mystery. Eventually, the rise of the internet would start to play a key role in this case, where even in the late 2010s, over 3 decades after she had vanished, her case was still being shared and still being discussed, just as it had been 3 decades prior, with it still being a point of contention for politicians, even as recently as 2019. When a man running for governor of Idaho mentioned her disappearance in a Facebook post, 35 full years later. Regardless of Jonelle's whereabouts, her case was still.
Presidents used to have at least fake empathy. No, I'm more just talking they could speak words, you know, like they could speak in complete sentences. I'm not even talking about whatever the fuck policies or whatever the bad, you know, politicians are garbage. Yeah, they are. They could talk. It's just like the past 2 presidents. You can't even understand anything they're saying. You know,
still very much alive, as the world and especially Jonelle's parents were haunted by the question, what happened to Jonelle Matthews? But sure enough, in late 2019, they would finally get their answer.
Damn.
Was found in Weld
2019.
County earlier this week appeared to bring an end to a 3-decade-long search for a missing 12-year-old girl. The Greeley Tribune is reporting they are those of Jonelle Matthews.
On Tuesday, July 23, 2019, at roughly 4:50 p.m., a crew had been digging in an isolated field in Weld County, Colorado, in order to install a new pipeline, when they would uncover the decayed remains of a little girl. It was Jonelle, still wearing those clothes that she had worn to her recital, meaning she had likely died the very day she disappeared, having been killed by a single gunshot wound to the head. Jonelle Matthews had been murdered in cold blood, and almost immediately upon finding her body, the police would also zero in on their suspect. The man's name was Stephen Pankey, and at the time of Jonelle's disappearance, he had been living in the same general area in Colorado. But by 2019, Stephen had long since fled the area, as after the crime, he would eventually pack up seemingly out of the blue and move to Idaho, where when Jonelle's body was discovered, he just so happened to be running for governor.
I was gonna say it. I was gonna say politician. I was so close. I should have just said it beforehand. That dude's face was screaming politician. I fucking knew it. I knew it. God damn it. Fucking piece of shit.
Governor.
Fuck politicians, dude. Oh my God.
And during his campaign, Pankey had put out a bizarre Facebook post about Jonelle, calling for the Colorado DA to oversee a fresh investigation, as he stated that the local police had wrongly been focused on the theory that Jonelle's disappearance was a child abduction.
Yo, thank you, TC, for gifting 5 memberships. Thank you so much.
Abduction and murder, which was quite convenient, as just a few months after posting this, he would be arrested for the abduction and murder of Jonelle Matthews.
Piece of fucking shit.
Police believe that Jonelle had first caught Stephen's eye when he was working as a janitor at the church she attended, with this leading to him stalking her and eventually abducting her on that fateful night, where he threw Jonelle in his car and ultimately ended her life, for no reason other than his sick satisfaction. He then proceeded to bury her in a field 20 miles away, in a spot that he was certain no one would ever find her. Now, the evidence supporting this is mainly circumstantial, but it is incredibly concerning. Just one day after Jonelle's abduction, Pankey decided to take his wife to California in order to celebrate the holidays with his parents, with this trip being completely unplanned, as his wife was only told of it literally the day of. And making things stranger, when they returned home, Stephen's car conveniently caught fire and was burned to a crisp, to which he offered no explanation for. But in response, he would take the car to a local scrapyard where it would be even further destroyed.
Very interesting.
Taking any potential evidence along with it. But while this is all strange enough, police say that the main indicator—
I swear politics and churches are breeding grounds for pedos. I mean, politicians and churches are prime sources of power. And what do pedos like? They like power.
That Stephen was their man was his clear obsession with Jonelle's case. Shortly after the slaying, Stephen began listening and watching any news reports he could on Jonelle's case, while also having his wife read every single article about the missing girl out loud, to which he would often have her repeat them over and over again. But his obsession didn't stop there, as he would then start frequently calling the police, wanting to talk to them about the case, even going as far as to give them potential leads, as he claimed to be fearful that he was going to be blamed for the crime, despite having seemingly never even met her.
The fuck?
And it was during some of these many unusual phone calls that he was said to have given details on her disappearance that were never actually made public. His obsession was entirely uncanny, bringing up her disappearance at random even decades later, with his Facebook post being a perfect example.
They didn't assume he was a suspect at any point?
And as it turns out, one of Stephen's most incriminating statements came as a result of something he mentioned in that infamous message. In it, Stephen says that his son Carl had been murdered in 2008, which is in fact true, as the murder was actually fully solved, with it being confirmed that Stephen had nothing to do with it. But when he was mourning the loss of Carl, something unusual happened. His now ex-wife recalled that following Carl's death, Pankey never once cried, until the day before his memorial service, where she watched him from a distance walk up to their son's urn and begin to sob, eventually blurting out, "I hope God didn't allow this to happen because of Jonelle Matthews."
What? Bro literally self-reported all over the place. Bro self-reported all over the place. And he got away with it. for 30 years.
Despite maintaining his innocence to this day, Pinky was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole in 2040, his conviction coming 12,634 days after Jonelle Matthews' disappearance, with Pinky's cryptic Facebook post serving as a dark relic of his twisted obsession that would eventually expose him as Jonelle's killer.
Wow.
I want to give a massive shout out to my buddy Ryan, aka Nexpo. A lot of you already know this, but Ryan is a really good friend of mine, and I'm super proud of him because he just released his very own podcast called Late Nights with Nexpo. Ryan,
bro, everybody's got a podcast. I got a podcast, Alien Bacon. Check that out. Good video though. Pissed me off. The video pissed me off. I'm mad. I'm mad now.
Now it's time to walk away. I hope you enjoyed your stay. Did you laugh or cry or maybe subscribed? I'll thank you either way. You know I will miss you. I hope you return. Tell your friend or your mother to get me more views, please.